Okay, I want you to try something for me. If you're in a safe place to do it, just close your eyes for a second. Picture yourself standing on a beach. The temperature is perfect, your toes are in the sand, and you're looking out at this endless blue ocean. You see a huge wave rising up, curling, and then just crashing right at your feet.
It's a classic image of peace, very meditative.
Right. Now, normally your brain and my brain, we immediately go to like high school physics.
Oh, yeah. Gravity, lunar pull, wind resistance.
Exactly. Fluid dynamics, where you see it as nature doing its automatic mechanical thing.
Yeah.
But what if that wasn't true? What if that specific waves, that exact rush of water, wasn't just physics? What if it was a calculated, exhausting labor of love designed specifically for you?
Wow. Okay. That is a very different way to look at a beach vacation.
It is, isn't it?
But it gets right to the heart of what we're covering today.
It really does. Today we are doing a deep dive into a concept called creation faith, or in the original Korean, Changjo Shineng. We're working from a transcript of a lecture titled Genesis '02 from the YouTube channel Kenosis. And let me tell you, this is not your standard Sunday school lesson.
Oh?
The speaker is basically trying to pull off a theological heist here.
A heist. I like that.
Yeah, he wants to steal the traditional image of God as this distant boss-in-the-sky figure and replace it with something much more radical.
Radical is definitely the right word. I mean, the mission of this deep dive, if you will, is to dismantle that view of a God who just sits up on a throne demanding service.
Right.
And instead, the source presents a God who labors, a God who serves, and a God who finds immense joy just in human happiness.
I love how romantic that sounds, but I know you're ready to get into the heavy philosophical stuff behind it.
Let's do it.
So let's go back to that beach image. The speaker in our source material, he describes this personal transformation. He says initially he'd just walk down the street and see trees and flowers as decorations.
Right. Just background noise. He admits he'd walk past a cherry blossom or something and just think, oh, nice, and keep walking. No connection.
Yeah.
But after this spiritual realization, this shift in perspective, he stopped seeing nature and started seeing God's hand of love.
And that leads to the wave analogy, which I honestly found so touching. He talks about standing on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings up a scientific fact that we all kind of know, but, we never really think about it.
Yeah.
That waves don't just magically appear right at the shore.
Exactly. He mentions that the wave you see crashing has traveled for months. It started hundreds, maybe thousands of miles away.
In the middle of the Pacific or something.
Yeah, driven by wind, molded by currents, traveling these vast distances.
And here's the theological twist. The speaker asks, who commands the wind? Who directs the currents? If you believe in a creator, well, then God is the one pushing that wave.
So by the time that water actually hits your ankles, it's been on this exhausted, violent journey.
He uses really visceral language.
He does. He describes the wave as foaming at the mouth from the exertion. And the reason for all of this? To tickle the feet of the person on the sand.
That is such a wild ego trip, isn't it? To think the entire ocean is working for me.
It sounds like an ego trip, but the speaker frames it as an act of extreme humility on God's part. He calls nature God's labor force.
A labor force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's arguing that we see nature as automatic because it's easier than thinking that someone is working so hard just to bring us a moment of joy.
He doubles down on this with the sand, too.
Yeah.
This detail blew my mind. He talks about visiting on Miondo Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And he realized the sand there isn't just crushed rock.
No, at that specific beach, the sand is made of crushed seashells, oysters, clams.
Wow.
And the speaker, he just reflects on the time involved. He picks up a handful of sand and realizes God must have spent ages using the wind and the waves to crush these sharp shells down, grinding them into a soft powder.
Just so he could have a soft beach to walk on.
Exactly. He asks, how much time? How much effort did this take? It creates this image of a God who is constantly, working behind the scenes.
And there's another analogy he uses about the wind on a hot day.
Oh, the servant fanning the king.
Yes.
That's a crucial reversal of roles. Usually in religion, humans are the servants fanning the king, who is God, right?
We're supposed to do the work.
But the speaker says, no, when you feel that cool breeze on a sweaty day, that is God acting as the servant fanning you, the human, to make you comfortable.
It really changes the vibe from fear me to let me make you comfortable.
Completely.
But this idea of enjoyment, it goes beyond just nature. The source spent a lot of time on, eating.
Mm-hmm. And just aesthetics in general. This connects back to that biblical refrain in Genesis. It was good.
Right.
The speaker points out that God created things first for viewing pleasure. Cherry blossoms, autumn leaves, seascapes. He says we often miss the viewing phase because we're so obsessed with the eating phase.
Waiting for the apple and ignoring the flower.
Exactly, but when he does get to the eating part, he doesn't hold back. He drops this line: eating is worship.
Which is, that's a controversial statement in a lot of religious circles.
For sure. We often associate piety with fasting, with denying yourself. But the speaker leans heavily into the example of Jesus. He notes that Jesus was criticized by the religious elite, the Pharisees, precisely because he was always eating and drinking.
Right. With tax collectors like Zacchaeus having these big dinners. The speaker actually has a pretty funny take on modern diet culture, too.
He does. He calls it a comedy. This cycle where we work hard to earn money to buy food, we eat it, and then we spend more money to go brain it off on a treadmill.
It is pretty ridiculous when you put it like that.
He argues that God's provision is meant to be enjoyed, not agonized over, that enjoying the meal God provided is its own form of gratitude.
And he really gets into the details of that provision. He talks
Okay.
about the sheer diversity of it all. He brings up the radish.
The humble radish.
And he challenges the audience. How many things can you make with a radish?
Yeah.
And he lists them off. Cubed radish kimchi, shredded radish, radish soup.
He says there are over 36 different dishes from just that one vegetable, and then he does the same thing with the pollock fish.
The fish with 1,000 names.
Right. Depending on if it's fresh or frozen or dried, it has a different name and a totally different taste. The point is, if God just wanted us to survive, we could have had a nutrient paste.
Like astronaut food. Just fuel.
Exactly. But the fact that we have this explosion of variety, textures, flavors, spices, proves God wanted humans to have culinary freedom and joy. It's a sign of affection.
But, and this is a big but, he clarifies that eating well isn't just about gluttony.
Precisely. This is where the social justice part comes in. He connects eating to biblical feasts, like tabernacles, and he explains that those feasts legally had to include the orphan, the widow, and the stranger.
You weren't allowed to just hoard it.
No. So eating is worship only works if you're making sure everyone else gets to eat too. True worship is ensuring the marginalized are fed.
I like that. It's very practical. So moving on to another big theme, happiness. The speaker uses a really powerful analogy about parents.
Oh, yeah. It's a tearjerker, he asks. When a parent is on their deathbed, what is their final wish? Do they say, build me a giant monument?
No, they say, please, just live happily, get along.
Right. And the speaker argues that God is the ultimate parent. His main desire isn't for us to build giant cathedrals for his ego. It's just for humans to live happily.
But then the host asks the obvious question. If God wants us happy, why the rules? Why the forbidden fruit in the garden? It feels like a setup.
And this is where the analysis gets really interesting. He reframes that tree of knowledge. He says the tree represents position and boundaries.
Okay, unpack that. Position.
He argues that happiness depends on knowing who you are and where you fit. Humans are creatures, we are not the creator, and that tree was a physical reminder of that boundary.
He uses some nature analogies here.
He does. A pine caterpillar eats pine needles. A fish lives in water. He says if a fish decides, I'm bored of water, I want to live on land like a fox, that fish doesn't become free.
It dies.
Exactly. The fish is happiest when it's fully being a fish, within its proper boundaries. He says the forbidden fruit wasn't a trap. It was a marker of our design. Happiness comes from existing within your created boundaries.
So the rule isn't to restrict joy. It's to preserve it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now we have to get to the most mind-bending part of this lecture. The speaker goes into physics and geometry to explain God.
This is a fascinating segment. He talks about the paradigm shift from flat Earth thinking to, well, round Earth thinking.
Okay.
He notes that the smallest unit of matter, the atom, is a sphere. It's round. And the largest things we see, planets, stars, are also spheres.
Right.
So in the old flat Earth way of thinking, directions are absolute. East is the opposite of west. Up is the opposite of down.
But on a round Earth.
On a sphere, if you travel east long enough, you end up back at the west. And in space, there's no absolute up or down.
Okay, I see where this is going.
He applies this geometry to theology. He says, our view of God has been stuck in flat Earth theology. We think God is up high, ruling, and we are down low. We see them as opposites.
But if the theological universe is round,
then the highest point connects directly to the lowest point. To be the most high, God must become the most low. They aren't opposite, they are the same point on the circle.
that is a wild way to think about it.
Yeah.
But he uses the story of Jesus to prove it, right? The incarnation.
Yes, the ultimate proof of this round earth theology is how Jesus entered the world. He wasn't born in a palace, he was born in a manger.
And he emphasizes what a manger actually is. Not the cozy thing on a Christmas card. It's a feeding trough for animals.
A dirty animal feeding trough, it smells. And he mentions the swaddling clothes. Not pristine white linens, but likely old rags, pieces of messy farm fabric.
So you have the creator of the universe, the
Yep.
Most High, lying in a dirty trough wrapped in dirty rags.
The speaker says this isn't an accident, this is God's character. The Most High is revealed by being in the lowest possible position. He connects this to Jesus washing the disciples' feet later.
The master acting as the servant again.
It's the consistent theme. The highest authority takes the lowest role. He challenges the listener. If you want to find God, don't look up at the positions of power. Look down. Look at the lowest places.
It completely dismantles the ego, doesn't it? If God is serving, what excuse do we have to be arrogant?
That's the crux of it. The source calls for a change of thinking, or metanoia. He says, stop looking for a God who dominates from above and start recognizing the God who serves from below.
It brings us all the way back to the waves. The God who commands the universe is the same God pushing a wave thousands of miles to tickle your feet.
And the God who spent eons crushing shells into sand. It's a theology of extreme intimacy and extreme service.
So what does this all mean for us, practically, on a Tuesday afternoon?
Well, the source suggests we need to start seeing our daily lives differently. When you feel a breeze, it's not just weather, it's service. When you eat a radish, it's not just calories, it's a gift.
It turns the mundane into the miraculous.
It really does.
Yeah.
It removes the separation between spiritual life and normal life.
So here is a final provocative thought for you to chew on. We've talked about waves and physics and radishes. But if the source is right, and God finds joy in serving you, and the highest act in the universe is to serve, how does that change the way you treat the person serving you coffee tomorrow morning, or the annoyed family member at the dinner table?
If the creator of the universe is willing to be the servant, we probably shouldn't think we're too good for it.
Exactly. Go enjoy your next meal, everyone. Treat it like worship. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.